Antonina Dębogórska is a licensed psychologist, sex therapist, and sex educator. She's an old friend of ours. She's been on our show twice before, but the last time was, I think, like 2 years ago, and we're very excited to welcome her back to KrakCast headquarters. So, Antonina, welcome back, and good to see you.
Hello, good to see you.
We need a lot of therapy around here, and that's why we ask you to come back in, talk about, well, sex, to be quite blunt and honest about it. I had a quick listen to our previous 2 episodes that we recorded a couple of years ago, and I realized that I forgot to ask you kind of a very basic question. I want to fix that now. Let's start with this. Is there a Polish, specifically or a uniquely Polish mentality when it comes to sex and sexuality? In other words, is your typical Polish person the same as basically any other European when it comes to sex, or is there something or a few things that define a unique Polish perspective on sex and sexuality?
Oh, this is a hard question, because I think it's even more question for sociology, the someone who is more like focused on not individuals and healthcare, but more about the groups and the difference between the cultures and anthropology and stuff like this, Well,
we're getting into deep water here already.
Yeah, but
let's go back closer to the beach.
But let's start from the preliminary, okay? That maybe
right.
I know I shouldn't generalize, but I will do it,
of course,
and I like.
We're generalizing 40 million Polish people, but yeah, do what you want. Yeah.
So, okay, first of all, if someone wants to really be very specific, we are generalize for fun right now, okay? So yes, I would say that what is the Polish issue is that we are actually a group which is really religion influenced. Okay, so we are super Catholic country, and Catholicism not going along with positive sexuality, let's say. Okay, that even if you are married, you still have some kind of strict rules for how you can express and how you can't. So maybe if we can kind of said this, that Polish are influenced, even if they are not Catholic, but they are influenced by this. This is something which we can call out.
All right, let me start challenging you immediately here.
Cool.
So are you telling me that someone who is a serious practicing Catholic cannot have a good sex life?
Can have a good sex life, but can also have pretty good amount of restrictions, which normal people... Sorry.
Oh, normal. Here we go.
People who, who kind of are not following all these rules really strictly.
Normal people.
So
there's a lot more repression involved.
Yes,
very religious.
Yes, this is it. I think so. If you really want to follow, because some of them are just not following the rules, which they are kind of like they should.
Okay, so if we kind of look past the religious issue, the Catholicism, let's say, would you say that Polish people are basically the same as anybody else when it comes to sexuality? Then, I know again we're generalizing. I mean, gross generalizations, but. Let's say, I don't know, maybe these are stereotypes, but you might say that the French might have one attitude about it, the English might have another attitude about it, the Italians, the Germans. Are these stereotypes, or do you think there's an element of truth in some of this?
Maybe also another factor is that we don't have that sex education nowhere, nowhere. Not in high school, not even, we don't know anything about condoms from school, nothing.
Right,
maybe it changed since I've been...
Let me stop you there, because it's funny you mentioned that, because that was actually the other question I was going to ask that we somehow forgot to ask in your previous visits. When it comes to sex education, and we're talking about, let's divide sex education into 2 parts. There's a biological aspect of it, obviously, and then let's say the social aspect of it. And I think you already answered my question. I was going to ask if you think the Polish school system does a good job of providing the sex education. I guess your answer is no. What do you think the Polish schools should be doing that they're not already doing when it comes to sex education?
Educating even about this first aspect which you are talking about, which we don't have. Even biology is not really...
Are you telling me they don't teach the biological aspect of reproduction in Polish schools? Are you serious?
Reproduction is different than sexuality and biologies of that, so,
Yeah, like where to touch people or what happens and why it happens and all of that stuff.
Is that biology?
Yeah. What is it? If it's to do with the body, it's going to be biology, isn't it?
I mean, I could jump in right now because I had sex ed in the US in 8th grade, and it talked about like how a date goes along and, about condoms and stuff like that. And then I had sex ed here in Poland in my last year or second to last year of high school in biology, where the teacher was making a chart about the menstrual cycle of a woman and seemed kind of confused at several points. And I'm thinking like, woman, you're like 5 years too late about this. I mean, I have different opinions about this. I mean, for me, it's, I'm more about in school teach about the biology. The social aspect should be taught by the family or by the community, just so it's not politicized either way. But yes, it was funny that in high school, I mean, in the US before high school, I was already taught about the birds and the bees and the ins and the outs. Well, here, the biology teacher seemed confused about periods.
So, Antonina, that's basically, you feel vindicated by what Dr. Mike said. That's basically Polish teachers don't know what they're doing when it comes to sex education in the biological aspect. I find it hard to believe personally, but I'll defer to Mike's experience and your opinion. But it seems weird to me that that's even possible.
Well, yes, I remember my biology teacher who just said we were in the last grade of high school, and she just said, look, sex, it's not for you, it's not for children. We were 18 already, and many of us already had sex for years. But we just heard that. It's not for you.
Let it go, Mike. Let it go.
Which high school, by the way?
No. I knew he couldn't resist that one. All right. So in your opinion, the Polish school should do more, both in terms of the biological aspect and the social aspect of sex education. Yeah. What would you say, just quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what would you say to my response to that, which is maybe that's not the domain of the school. Maybe that's the domain of the family to kind of monitor and take care of this kind of education.
I don't agree. I think it should be in the school, because every kind of education, every kind of subject is politicized somehow. But when we talk about sex education and sex in school, that gives all people around, parents and children both, some kind of legitimization for that sex is all right, sex is good, sex is something which we are doing, and maybe I would have less job. I think as long as we don't have sex in schools, I'm fine.
Sexual dysfunction is good for business,
yes,
I guess.
Like not good for business, but lack of sex education is good for sex dysfunction.
Let's get Gabby in here.
Yeah, and also like when it comes to kids, there's always, what are they going to teach in schools? But there are safeguarding measures you can put in. It's not like a free for all. You can put in measures that protect kids from certain elements without, I guess, ruining the education totally. Like there's safeguards that you can there's safeguard measures that you can use.
But you agree, and this is for you, Gabby, as well. Gabby and Antonina, you agree that even if schools are given this job of managing sex education, there are limits. Should we teach 13-year-olds about dildos? Should we teach them about sadomasochism and black leather? I mean, where are the limits? This is a question for you too, Gabby. I mean,
that's where the safeguarding issues lie, right?
So you agree that there are limits?
Yeah, of course there's limits. Like,
what's the safe word? Yeah.
First of all, kids need to understand what's going on, like biologically, and with the human aspect of it. And then after that, there are limits. Of course, there are limits that you don't teach everything. Cool. Well, yeah, of course you don't teach everything.
Yeah, like you have it's never too early for education, but the education has to be proper for age and for the level of the general development. So you have some thresholds of sexual development, and for every that area of age, let's say, you have other the sexual developmental stage.
Exactly. So if you've got
can be.
If you've got like a teenager, you teach them the teenage things. You don't go to BDSM. You just say this is what's happening during puberty. These are the emotional issues you're going to have. This is what consent is, because that's really important. And then leave it at that. And I mean, there's not much else to say.
I just think in the age of the internet, I imagine kids today know a lot more than we think they know, a lot earlier than we suppose that they know it. And school education is always going to be, they're always going to struggle to keep up with that. Dr. Mike?
All I know is that when I had that sex ed in 8th grade, they didn't teach me anything I didn't know, and I don't know where I knew everything I knew. I was that kid on the playground that everybody walked up to and asked those questions, even though I had no idea what I was talking about. I don't know how I was always right.
Are you
there.
proud of that? It sounds like you're proud of that.
I am proud of that.
Okay.
I just... But what I'm saying is, like, you're talking about, like, bringing in some kind of regulation or limitations or, guarding kids against this. But who decides at what point, what is too much, what is too little? When we're talking about the biological aspect of it, that's okay. But when we're talking about the social issue, that's when it becomes a little more complicated, because there are cultural issues, social issues, that changes, traditions changes. And I've always been of that mindset, like, when we can't all decide on something, maybe we shouldn't be approaching it at all in that situation, in schools, for instance.
Let's not make Antonina responsible for the entire government program of sex education. Just got her opinion here. Let's move on to something else, Antonina. Got to ask about COVID. There has to be some kind of connection between the COVID situation and sexual dysfunction. Based on your professional experience over the last year or so, what kind of problems is sexual problems is COVID causing?
I mean, how do you have sex when there's 6 feet of separation and a mask involved?
Yeah, like it's a lot of things, because for many people a lot of things changed. So they have to face the new conditions, for example, for their relationships, or for actually what Dr. Mike said, for their lack of relationship. So if they are single, it's like kind of harder to date. If you are in relationship, sometimes you have to change your habits, your lifestyle. You are, for example, you are on home office all day for a year now, and you never used to that. So that all changes are always changes is crisis. In psychology, crisis is about a change. It can be even positive change, but it's still crisis. You need to have new ways of coping with that, and kind of new, how to say, I've lost the word now, but you
like
need to...
adaptive?
Yes, adaptive, but I need to find that word because I will use it today. Anyway, yeah, like it changed, and it's always a test.
So, yeah, the fact that COVID, as you say, puts people in home office and just creates a general change, and that has an effect on their sexual lives, I guess. The fact that they're always at home, maybe always at, whereas previously, I can imagine a situation whereas previously, let's say a couple had their separate lives, and then they'd spend the evening together after a long day at the office. Now they're at home, maybe in the same room, the same apartment, 24 hours a day. I would expect that to have actually a negative effect on their sex lives over the long term. What do you think? Is being together all the time good or bad for your sex life?
That's a tricky question, because the word I was missing previously is the word resources.
Oh, you weren't even listening to me. You were thinking about the word. Okay, I got it.
I was doing both.
Okay.
Really, you can believe me that I am really good at this.
All right.
I can both listen to someone and also analyze things in my head. This is what I do for a living, okay? So because we have many theories and many different examples, we have two different kinds of desire. And one desire is desire which is based on the spontaneity. It's like spontaneous desire. And this is feeling which is coming from your head to your body. That means that when you are, for example, longing for someone, you are waiting for that person, you are missing that person, and you start to kind of fantasize about it, and you have space for it, you have distance, you need distance for it to experience it. And then you are attracted to your partner. Okay, so this is how it goes. From your thinking about it, your body is getting ready for sex. It's more about erotic aspect. That means that thinking going from the head to the body. So couples who actually relied on this before, which, as you said, the example, they were living separate lives, they were more individuals, and they were taught that they are more based, they desire than their feelings more based on that spontaneity and those eroticism and longing and missing. They might facing the change, and this is how the second way of desire can come on the table, which is actually more effective one, and I think better for development and for like kind of consciously creating your sex life, which is responsive sexual desire. And responsive sexual desire is more about that you are willingly making yourself into situation of closeness, physical closeness with other person, and you are letting your body lightening your mind. So first desire is about that your mind, who actually is missing for your partner, is lightening your body. And the second kind of desire is that your body, because you are touching, you know how to do it, you can start from zero desire, from zero arousal. Even you can start from minus 100, but you are kind of like growing it and developing to it through the experience of being close with that person physically, touching, caressing, doing things you like. So
just trying to imagine what minus 100 desire feels like. Margaret Thatcher, that's what it feels like.
All right, Merkel,
or Merkel, Merkel,
So
absolutely.
if that couple who you talked about, you know, if they can switch their resources from the like really rely on spontaneity, which is like, this is not the easy thing to do. And I would say that when you really rely on this first desire, you are actually leaving your sex life in the hands of exception, because it happens at the beginning of the relationship and sometimes in your relationship, you know?
Let me get one more question to you here before we throw the floor open to everybody and get just random questions here. We got some of those too. Kind of connected with the COVID situation and home office, and that's our online lives. We often see stories about how people, we all spend too much time on the internet, and one of the side effects of this for many people can be, kind of an adventure into porn and an idealized version of what women are like, or maybe what men are like, and just kind of a fantasy version of sex and sexual relations. Do you see this as a major problem among people as we all have these, as we all spend way too much time online?
I would say about what you said about that porn and that idealized visuals, because I think this is a more myth, and this is more anxiety of like from the side of the woman, that guys are really like, at least my clients, that they are really like having problem that their girlfriends look different than the porn stars. But more things which is like kind of tricky about porn, that it's showing idealized sex life in the way of erection, how long it lasts, how intensive it is, how reaction body has. So this is worse thing than actually the
unrealistic standards.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Yes,
I knew he was waiting. He's waiting on his opportunity constantly right now. But unrealistic standards for sexual performance.
Yes. Oh, this is it. This is sexual performance anxiety. It's more of a problem for guys than the thing that they are comparing their girlfriends with porn stars. They are comparing themselves with the male porn stars more than their girlfriends with the female ones. You know why?
Tell us.
Because when you are with the person, not online, not on the screen, but you are with their body, you are having 5 senses. But when you are online, you are only have 1. And touch is the most powerful sense.
So are these problems associated with online porn? I guess with porn, is this a guy thing, or do women have these problems too?
Woman has exactly this problem which you described, but it's more woman's problem than guy's problem. That women think that they feel jealous, they feel insecure, that they guys are comparing them to porn stars' bodies, that they don't look like a porn star. Yeah, they don't.
So wait, let me clarify this. The women have a problem because they know the guys are watching porn and comparing them, whereas the guys have a problem. In other words, who's watching the porn? Is it both sides, or is it the guys watching the porn?
I think both sides are watching the porn, but guys more use it for masturbation. So they have
What are women using it for?
They have a habit to watch porn.
Why do women watch porn?
For entertainment and curiosity, Gabi.
Yeah, like mainly they do it because their boyfriends do it, I think, actually. because they think that they need to kind of partake in this kind of visual thing. Whereas women, I think, generally we're allowed to be a little bit more tactile in culture. So like the visual thing isn't necessary, but when it comes to guys, that visual thing is quite a hot thing. And women feel they need to kind of partake in it in order to make their guy happy. Whereas I don't think that's necessarily true, actually.
Sounds like one of those stereotypes that grew out of a kernel of truth, where the guys are more visual and the women are more emotional, and so the guys need that visual stimulation and the women need the emotional bond. Am I dealing in stereotypes, or is that basically the way it is?
This is a very long story. You really want to hear
Give
it?
us the short version.
Yes. Okay, let me give me a time for short version. Okay. Guys are conditioned in our culture, not getting into the really anthropology thing, and I could really write a master degree about it. They are conditioned to be more visual because you need to have erection to have penetrative sex, which is actually kind of idolized because we have reproductive model of sexuality in our civilization circle. So your erection is always like kind of something in the center of attention, even if it's not the most effective method for both you and us to have pleasure. But it's the most effective method for having babies. So your erection is getting conditioned by a culture, even subconsciously. And this is how you are kind of bombed by visuals of naked body of female. And this is how you get conditioned to be visual. So girls also can be conditioned to be more visual too. And this is what I do on therapy with guys. I'm trying to awaken their tactile functions because it's actually more pleasure and they are more, they have more chances to make it more pleasurable.
Can you
for them.
define tactile functions for us?
Like you are actually having that kind of homeworks which are making you be more sensual and like knowing how you like to be touched and how you like to touch other body, how you like to touch it for your pleasure, and how you can respond when other person gives you feedback about how they want to be touched. And also it's general things, not only erotic, that you are, for example, focusing on every senses in your day life. Like when you are eating something, you are kind of looking for smells you like, what makes you awaken, what makes you more relaxed, what kind of lighting you like, things like this. And also the touch is something very important. It's something which you are getting awareness of. For example, what kind of textures you like. What kind of softness of your mattress? Do you know your softness of mattress? When you lay in your bed?
No.
Yeah. So this is your homework. You need to find out if it's
my mattress is definitely like negative 100 arousal. I don't think about that at all. Okay.
So things like this, like be more aware of senses.
How did we start going down this road, by the way? How did we get to this point where we're talking about
Porn.
Porn. Oh, yeah, that's porn.
Porn, yeah.
Oh, okay, one more thing. I want to get Dr. Mike and Josh and Gabby. I have one more question. This is for both ladies here, Gabby and Antonina. This is at the cross-section of feminism and lots of things. Interesting. I just want to get your opinion, and there's no right or wrong answer. Porn, and let's throw prostitution in there as well. Porn and prostitution. Empowering girl power or humiliating exploitation? What do you think? Girl power or exploitation? Porn and prostitution?
That depends, actually. Because it has, like, sex has both sides of it, because it's very powerful thing in our lives. So it can be super, super dark. Like prostitution have a really dark side when it's exploitation.
Sure. People trafficking and things like that.
But also, this is what we talk about a lot, but we never talk about this that bright side, that some prostitution, we are not even calling them prostitution, we call them sex workers. They are really happy about their job and they like it. They like it. And
Do they?
Well, I don't know.
Maybe some do. I don't know.
To be honest, I would have to do some research and I would have to ask many sex workers if they enjoy this job. But we can see it that we have in States, for example, many statements of sex workers for not being like demonized and not being treated like victims. They don't like it because they enjoy what they do. And even if you come for Roxa, in Poland we have this website where
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Mike's never heard of it. Never heard of it. Tell us all about it. Never heard of it. Josh, never heard of it.
I haven't ever heard of
Okay.
it, but I
Well, actually, Josh is telling the truth. It's
like KS, not X.
it's where you can hook up with willing ladies.
You have hundreds of girls there.
Yes.
Hundreds of girls who are doing it because they decided to. I really can't believe that 100% of them are only victims.
Let me let's put Gabby on the spot. Gabby, prostitution and porn, exploitation or girl power.
Oh my God, this is like such
It's
an
a tough
intense
one.
topic.
It's a tough one.
I would lean on the side of exploitation simply because you need to define what empowerment means. And empowerment is basically making yourself powerful. That doesn't mean doing what you want to do necessarily and doing something because you enjoy it. That doesn't make it powering to you. Like education is empowering. Sometimes doing the opposite thing as to what the government wants you to do is empowering. So just because, men like sex, they like porn, so you go into porn or prostitution, that doesn't make it empowering for you. That just makes it a choice. And choices don't necessarily equate to empowerment.
It's a tough subject. There's, again, no right or wrong answer, I guess.
But some girls are doing it because they like it. They don't go there because men's like it. They do it because
Well,
they
what
enjoy
are we
it.
talking
Sure,
about?
but that's not
porn
the same
or
as
what?
empowerment.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be empower. Yes, I wouldn't say that this is is sex work empowering or it's exploitation. This is like, really, really 1-0 and black and white,
So do you think some women do porn because they enjoy it?
I think it might be.
And some women watch porn because, what was the reason again? Because entertainment?
Yes, more entertainment.
Not so much stimulation like guys.
And some stimulation, some have habits and some entertainment.
Gabby wants to tell us about her porn habit. Go
But
ahead.
yeah, I'm going to tell. No, I don't do that. Actually, I don't watch porn actually. But what I was going to say was that you have to be very careful when you ask people in the industry about whether they enjoy it or not. Right?
Yeah, fair point.
Because if you're working in a job, you're not going to say, "Oh, I hate my job."
Okay, let's throw it open to to everybody here. Random questions for a sex therapist. Let me go quiet. Good God, unbelievable.
Why did you do it? What made you want to do it?
Become a sex
That's
therapist?
right. Yeah.
What made me do it? Okay. When I was second year of my psychology university, we were taught very little about the relationship and love in general. And one of the theories we were taught was very pessimistic, and I didn't agree with it. And I started from in this example from the love theory, and from love theory, which was actually Sternberg theory, which divided relationships in the phases, which is telling you, like cutting again, long story short, that at the end of every relationship you have something like empty relationship, and that you have never you can never experience really hot passion in relationship. It was really pessimistic for me, so I was really curious if they have any alternatives for these theories. If we have anywhere someone who said something different. So I started to dig deeper into that theme of relationship, passion. If it's really like this, I was 20 years old. I needed to know if it's really something I need to accept, that I will never experience passion in my long-term relationship. And I started to find other experts who said different things. And this is how I came into the sex therapist theories and other like love experts. And I started to be interested in that topic. And yeah, this is how it started. This is what made me decide. Academic boring story, actually.
I've got a question for you. Of course, we would never make fun of anybody's problem. We're not trying to belittle anyone's issues when they come and talk to you or any other therapist. But give us like one or two examples of like the most cliched typical problems that people come to a sex therapist with. What are like the standard issues that people have?
That they don't feel like having sex with their partner, which they love. They love their partner, but they don't feel like having sex. This is the most common problem I have. This is my specialty, actually.
All right. What's next on the list? Anything else come to mind?
Girls who are having problems with kind of both psychological and also physical side of sex reactions. So they are kind of tense, or they don't feel any pleasure, they don't have orgasm. But also, I have also many men in my practice, which, for example, suffer from erection dysfunction, and performance anxiety is the cause of it. And also because of they have problems with erection, they sometimes stop having sex completely with their partners. Yeah, this is the cliches.
Dr. Mike, you want to get in here with your medical knowledge?
Well, not with medical knowledge. I was just about to ask about some, say, issues that have popped up in recent years when it comes to sex in society, where, say, young men are now afraid to approach women because there's always that issue about, #MeToo. Will my advances on her be considered sexual harassment? I'm at this party, etc. In Poland, there was always that kind of, it was a few years of difference where, a guy walks into a bar, has a few drinks with a girl, he fumbles around, she tells him, fuck off, everything's fine, or slaps him, those boundaries wouldn't be crossed. While now we're at that problem where, there's that Polish concept of kac moralny right now, where people...
Right, turn it into a question, Mike.
Are you worried that in Poland you might have the same issue that we have in the Western world right now, that men are afraid to approach women because they will be considered rapists or sexual predators, instead of just guys who really don't know what to do and, want to relate with this woman?
I never had even one single case of guy who are afraid to be a rapist or predator and came to my office to fix it. More, they are afraid of being rejected. And this is how they getting into the point when they don't know how to deal with the dating thing. They are more fear of the rejection than really of being accused of being a rapist. So to being a rapist is like very long way before they started to be even afraid of that rejection and humiliation.
Can you tell us, I'm asking for a friend, how can we avoid rejection from a woman?
You can't avoid it. You have to accept it. This is actually the speaking about...
It's the worst answer ever. It's true, but it's true. But
it's called vodka.
Yeah. Okay. No.
This is what I am trying to teach my clients sometimes, that if you want to approach anything, not even only the other human beings and cats, you need to be kind of accepting the
something we talked about before we started recording, but okay.
Sorry. Something.
I give up.
You need to be. You need to know that you have to accept the potential failure.
And also, rejection, it's not just a sexual thing, right? It's in every aspect of your life. So I think maybe I'm wrong, and I could be corrected. But if you're going to have problems with rejection generally, you're going to have even more problems with rejection when it comes to one-on-one, because you take it personally, don't you? It's a very personal thing, rejection. It's the most personal thing that can actually happen to you. More than acceptance, even.
Makes sense.
Yes, exactly. And when we talk about sexual rejection, it's even worse than anything else. So it's because it's even more personal, even more intimate. So this is what we do, that they are more afraid of being rejected.
When we talk about what people find sexually attractive, of course, we're talking about heterosexual relationships here, of course, right now. When we talk about this, it's hard to avoid the cliches and the stereotypes, but I think generally men are kind of more honest when they say that they're more interested in the physical attractiveness of a woman. And whereas women, and again, you tell me if I'm wrong, but women will play this game where they talk about a sense of humor and all this bullshit, which is, the funniest guys on the planet cannot get a date. But I think, do you find that men are more honest when it comes to describing what they want in a sexual partner?
I will actually make it correct for you, and I hope you will believe me. They don't lie. They are honest to you because...
Sorry, who's they?
Women are honest because women tend to psychologize sex and not kind of appreciate all the sensual aspect, and we include visual aspects as well. So they are actually worse and objectifying men than guys who can objectify from the conditioning, which is rooted in culture. Okay.
Did you say women are worse at objectifying? Did you say
they
that?
are worse at objectifying, for example, like a man's body. So they don't look so much at, how he's attractive physically, how he's, I don't know, like this or other part of the body looks like.
So what happens is you objectify the psychology rather than the body. So women are after men with certain characteristics, funny, easygoing, good to go on a date, whatever those psychological aspects might be. Sense of humor, whatever it is. But this is like objectifying almost the psychology and then ignoring the body completely, which is just as bad, I would say, as objectifying the body and then forgetting about the psychology, the things that you like.
This is true.
Wait, Josh. Okay. You're both on record as saying that women. I want to make sure I understand this. You're saying that women do not place so much importance on the physical appearance of their partner.
It has to be true. Otherwise, my years as a student would have really sucked.
Okay, so I've got
You're both lying, by the way. Josh, jump in here.
Right. Well, no, they're not. But specifically, or in this, but I think the thing is that the psychological characteristics that they say that they prefer are not actually the ones that they do really prefer. And this is where you see that with the sizer going on now, it's like, yes, we like easygoing and kind and a good sense of humor. And like, if this were the case, how is it that kind of so many, not all women, but so many women have a real problem breaking up with complete assholes?
Ooh, well, Josh just dropped a grenade in here.
I'm just gonna answer the question as to the psychology. The reason why women are more interested in what's going on in the head is because they reject the body, and that's unhealthy. It's like, it's there, it's still there. Just because you've rejected something, it doesn't mean you still have a passion for it and you still want your partner to be good looking, but it's admitting that actually it's quite important. That's where it becomes an issue, right? So you have this like objectification of the psychology. You want a guy that's funny and all that. You also want a guy that's hot and knows what to do, but you don't want to admit that because actually socially, it's not really that acceptable for women to say. So you push that down and you pretend it's not going on, and then then you get to the situation where, I just want a nice guy, but I don't really like you. And then the guy's like, well, but you say you don't care about my looks. Well, actually, you do care about their looks. You're just not allowed to admit it.
But Antonina, if someone goes to you and they say, look, I've lost interest in my partner because she's older now, she's put on some weight, and she's just not that attractive anymore, so I'm not interested. If someone says that, do you think they're shallow or somehow wrong for that? Is that a problem, or is that normal?
Sometimes they have something which Jack Morin called, one of the best sexologists in whole times, called centerfold syndrome. And centerfold syndrome. Okay. And it works both for women and for guys, that sometimes when we are, for example, we are actually in pain because of something which we can't experience consciously in relationship. For example, we are in pain because of many rejections we suffered from by our partner in sexual or other way, we are kind of putting attention to things which are our excuse to not feel so much hurt and so much rejected. So we devaluate and we desexualize our partner, and we are tending to focus on things which are less attractive for us in visual aspect. And how the Jack Morin actually noticed the centerfold syndrome, it's because he actually had a lot of, it's long time theory, because it was in the times when guys were using magazines, centerfold is in the middle of magazine. And he noticed that during the therapy, when the guys actually started to work on issues with their partners, then they started also notice more attractive visual aspects of their bodies. And then when they getting kind of like closer and understanding each other better and focus on other senses and focus on their needs and stuff, they also started to be more attracted to each other. This is how human brain works. We can actually really create our partner inside image.
So basically you're saying it's okay if I'm no longer attracted to somebody because they're fat, overweight, and no longer hot. That's okay?
I am not judging it. I am not judging if it's okay or not.
But it's
I am
natural.
just explaining that it's something in the field which we can call centerfold syndrome, and we actually can find the causes of it.
Centerfold. Oh, sorry, I just got it. Yes.
You know, so I don't know
Playboy.
if it's okay or not. It's not my.
Well, I thought she said.
my
I thought it
role
was
to
fault. I
judge.
thought she said centerfold. Sorry.
You know, it's not my role to judge, because I think it's okay to be in true relationship with yourself. But sometimes it's nice to have, perspective of someone to, from that perspective, getting even deeper truth about yourself, and then getting to know that it's not only about the look.
Gabby's got a question or a comment.
Well, it was just a comment that you've got to be honest with yourself about what you like and what ticks your boxes, right?
Exactly. But if you like,
Floats your boat.
but I would say
Turns
that
you
we
on.
can come up with the hypothesis that if you are with someone for a long time and you are kind of share a lot of experience with that person, it's not so shallow. Even if you think that it's so shallow that she just really grow fat and older and she's not attractive, it might be something deeper. Maybe it's also that you don't like this change, but if you have really strong bond with that person and good relationship, that wouldn't cause like really bad fail of your feelings.
Let me ask about dysfunction, right? Sexual dysfunction generally, and how you define it. Because when we have a culture, like you mentioned earlier, repression under Catholicism and whatnot, and the idea in a lot of psychology is that liberation is equated with kind of doing what you want, right? If it makes you feel good, you should do it. If you get pleasure from it, it's okay. But surely there's a line somewhere where it kind of crosses into too much, or it becomes destructive, or again, some kind of dysfunction. If somebody tells you they masturbate every day, you might say, okay, good for you. If they tell you they masturbate 10 times a day, that might be some dysfunction, right? So somewhere you have to kind of decide between what's good and healthy and when does it become too much and unhealthy. So how do you kind of define that? How do you know where dysfunction starts?
We don't like this word in sexology in general. We don't like this function word at all. Even when I talk to my client, I never talk to them about their dysfunction. I talk to them about their difficulty, for example, because difficulty is more about subjective judgment than about what is called in some kind of, manual for DSM, which is about, to say that you are dysfunctional. No, you are not dysfunctional if you don't have a pain coming along with what you do. And sometimes really it's a pain which is not coming out of what you do sexually, but out of how you judge yourself for it. So, for example, I'm having people who are saying, I shouldn't masturbate because it's wrong. How often do you do it? And they say every day. For men who is healthy, and especially if he's 20 something, I have very often younger and younger clients. Masturbation once a day, it can be normal. No dysfunction.
But what if, again, somebody, not dysfunction, but what did you say, difficulty? If someone, Dr. Mike, for example, masturbates 10 times a day, is that a problem?
I'm not that young anymore. I wish I could.
I know you are stuck in the quantity, which is very easy to define if it's problem or not, but it's not about quantity, but it's about if it's compulsive. This is one thing. If it's compulsive.
I have to leave my desk, go to the bathroom, I'm at work, I'm missing phone calls, I'm not getting things done.
This is it. The one thing, the very, very, you are actually can see that you can't handle it.
Becomes damaging to your life somehow.
Yes, damaging to your kind of field in your life. But sometimes it's really also tricky because your girlfriend can be just jealous that you are having some other area where your sexuality coming out of the, partnerhood. And this is still not the thing, this is still about education, that masturbation is separate need from the sexual need. It's basically having sex with yourself. Most of people having this need. More or less.
Okay, we're focusing on masturbation here, but again, it's generally dysfunction. How do you know when something becomes just, do you ever have to tell a patient, you shouldn't do this, you need to stop this because it's bad for you, because it is not a dysfunction, but a difficulty.
Put the cactus down.
No, I'm trying to not be so directive, but I am working, for example, with kind of habits of thinking. And one of the most destructive habits of thinking in our sex life is being self-criticizing and judging. So, for example, if we have Mike's case, he's masturbating.
Neil is
That's okay, Mike. That's okay. We're not judging.
10 times a day. And
By the way, Mike, we've been here for 45 minutes. Don't you have to go? All right. Sorry. Okay. All right. Sorry, Antonina.
I will tell you straight, like, more often I have people who are having normal sexual motives, normal sexual activity. Yes, so masturbatory activity, which is totally normal for their age, their health, their lifestyle. That masturbation doesn't cause them any problems in their job. It's not even compulsive. They can decide if they masturbate now or they go shopping. Okay.
Tough choice.
Or
the malls are closed now.
It's an easy choice now.
But more often I get clients who actually judge this normal state and they are feeling guilty for it because, for example, they have that kind of strict religion or stereotypical cultural rules. So it's more often that I have to say, look, okay, you are coming to me with that you are addicted to masturbation, 5 questions, and I know that most of cases it's not the deal. And also other thing which is important, if you are really regulating your emotional state, for example, your anxiety with this thing, so when you are recreational drinker, that means that you are, for example, drinking because you want, but you don't feel that you have to drink to put yourself on peace, to calm down, to go to sleep and stuff like this. You don't need it, okay? But with masturbation, you can still somehow regulate a little bit your emotion because we are doing it by different things. And masturbation can be, for example, when you can't sleep, you masturbate, you feel better, you are more on peace, you fall asleep. But sometimes it can be first step which lead you to this masturbation, which can be a problem for you. Because then if you don't have more options to relax, to calm down your anxiety, then it can become the kind of being not maybe addicted to masturbation, but depend too much on one thing, which is like one way. But it can be with anything else. It can be with, I don't know, like chewing gum. If you depend only on one way to be on peace with your emotions, you're kind of dependent and you are not growing.
What about somebody who has zero sexual desire generally? Is that difficult or dysfunctional or whatever the word was? Is that a problem or is that okay? Not interested at all.
This is very difficult because I think in my practicum I had one case like this who had zero thing, and I actually refer out this person to other profession who is doing more techniques which are focused on the not our Western medicine, but more on tantric things and Eastern medicine, Ayurveda things and stuff. But I've done it only because that person wanted to go to specialists like this, some random person, and I already had person who do it, and I know that they have some kind of effects. So once I had that case, which was totally hopeless for me, but it's still only me. And this is the very important message that not for everyone going for the sex therapy is the only way to treat this. Anything. Not for everyone, therapy is the best way to cope with their sexual problems, because sexual problems are not only in the healthcare problems, but I would say on the border of healthcare and mental care and on the well-being things. So, I don't know, maybe that asexual people who are not having any sexual desire and they are fine with this exist. But this is not my role to call someone asexual. This is identity. This is sexual identity. They just say, okay, I have something like this. I don't want to do anything about it. Maybe I already tried and I'm sick of that. and this is my identity. You know what I mean? This is like my opinion. Maybe someone would say something different.
Let me use something you just said to start to wrap things up here. You said that the therapist is not always the best alternative, not always shouldn't be the first alternative. There are other things to do. If there's someone who thinks they have some kind of sexual problems or something issue connected with their sexuality, before they go talk to a therapist, what are some of the things they can do maybe within their own relationship or maybe just working with themselves that might be able to help improve the situation?
A big part of my job is just sex education. So they, for example, can start just educating themselves about sexual myths. I sometimes even have that recommendation for my clients that they can follow the sex positive sites and fan pages to have daily doses of this detabooization. This is how I call it. That just putting out sexual taboo out of you is a big part of thing. That you are feeling that you are allowed to do something with your sexuality, to get knowledge about it, to have really like debunking the myths around it. This is what you can do without sexologists. Like try to get more knowledge, read books about it.
What about talking to your partner? How do you start a conversation like that?
Start a conversation.
Yeah, I don't find you attractive anymore. You don't turn me on anymore.
Well, it's really like painful to hear something like this.
All right, maybe I shouldn't phrase it like that exactly, but how do you...
Should we be charging you today?
I am keen on taking like responsibility on myself, on my own feelings, my own sexual reactions. This is also what centerfold syndrome does, that actually the thing that you are not attracted to me and I choose you as my partner. So if I choose you, that means that one day maybe you was attractive to me, and now I lose it. It's my problem that I've lost it. It's maybe not always your problem. Sometimes it may be, but not always. Because this is the thing which we don't talk a lot, because we have tendency to blaming other people's for what we experience in relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I was joking in a place where maybe I shouldn't have, but what I meant to say was that if you want to talk to your partner about this, it must be really difficult to raise the subject without your partner feeling like it's an attack.
So don't raise the subject as a problem. Raise it as an opportunity. Say...
Okay, that sounds like business speak.
No.
This is not a problem, it's an opportunity. No, it's a problem.
I would ask you, what is your goal? If my goal is that, okay, I am sad that my relationship is not as hot as it was, I don't think talking about it to my partner is the best way. That like telling, look, this is the problem for me. I would think about the atmosphere or thing we can do together to make it hotter. Okay? And then I can ask for example, I think we can go to restaurant to spice things up. I don't know if that would work for someone.
Not now.
But you know what I mean? Like, I would go with some resolution instead of like putting on the table some serious problem and also talking about this lack of attraction. This is your thing. You need to deal with it. Or you need to think what your partner does or what is happening in you, that you need to both deal with it. Okay? But I don't think communicating every single thought is the best way to be in relationship, really. Maybe it's like against some kind of philosophy when we can like
this whole idea of tell me everything you're thinking is a bad idea.
In what world does telling everything on your mind ever result in anything good?
True. It's just you're asking for problems. They're absolutely true. Antonina, if anyone listening is interested in talking to you privately on a professional basis, how can they find you?
They can find me through my website, which is antoninadębogórska.com. Or if they are Polish speakers, they can find me also on Znany Lekarz. Maybe even Znany Lekarz has their English version. Znany Lekarz is the website where you can find psychologists and also other health and mental care experts.
Well, we'll definitely put some links to your site on our show notes. You can find those on our website, KrakCast.pl. We'll put it on our Facebook page as well. Antonina Dębogórska, psychologist, sex therapist, sex educator.
I would say.
She has a lot of titles because she's so qualified and knowledgeable about this topic. Thanks again for coming in to see us, Antonina, and we'll invite you next time we need some therapy.
Ooh, okay. Welcome.